All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Escaping Enemy Mode. Why should I care? This is a webinar brought to you by Life Model Works and Thrive Today. My name is Christy Harang, and on behalf of both of our teams, we're just really glad to have you with us for this time. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in and introduce you to our panelists who are with us. We have Ray Woolridge, who is the co-author, along with Dr. Jim Wilder, of the book Escaping Enemy Mode: How Our Brains Unite and Divide Us, or Divide Us. And he is also a U.S. Army Brigadier General, a retired general, and serves as the executive director with Life Model Works, which links modern day brain science with the Bible in order to create practical tools for churches to foster authentic community and real life transformation. So Ray, thanks for being with us. Oh, you're muted. Sorry.
All right. It's really good to be here today.
Oh, we're so glad you're here. Thank you so much. So we also have Chris and Jen Coursey. They are the founders of Thrive Today, which is a ministry that takes modern brain science-based relational skills and trains people in those skills that are essential to having thriving relationships, thriving emotions, and also spirituality that is thriving. So Chris and Jen, I wanted to say a little more about you. So Chris is our president and the author of The Joy Switch, several other books, but we're going to talk about The Joy Switch a little later. Jen is our executive director and the founder of Thriving Mamas, which helps support moms in bringing relational skills to their families. So Chris and Jen, thanks for being with us.
Hello, good to be with everybody. We're really excited about our time here.
Yes.
Very excited. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. We've been very excited for this for quite some time. And this webinar is based on Ray's book, Escaping Enemy Mode. And what we're going to do is we want to illustrate what this enemy mode is, what it might feel like to be in a state of enemy mode, the damage it can do, but also provide hope of how we can escape it. And we're going to do that by sharing stories with you today. And these stories are going to show how enemy mode is something that you, me, and other people, we all slip into, and probably more than we even realize, but it's also going to provide hope for a more relational way to live. So this webinar will be followed up by an event in February that we're putting on. So stick with us to the end because we're going to share more about that. And what we would like to do right now is just hear from you. And I think let's see here. We want to share a poll with you, and I messed up the poll a little bit, so I'm going to let you put it in the comments instead. We want to hear how much of the enemy mode have you read? And it might be, I don't have the book. It might be, I have it, but I haven't started. It might be, I'm halfway through, or I've read it twice. Whatever it is, hopefully our chat is enabled. So we got 2 chapters. I don't have the book, halfway through. I've read it all. So yeah, just go ahead and put in there 5 chapters. We've got a variety of people there. So we love hearing from you guys. And as you're putting those in, Ray, I would love for you to share just a word on why you and Dr. Wilder felt like this was such an important book to write.
Well, of course, 2 years ago, I would have been hard pressed to even define enemy mode. So, and yet I realized after spending a lot of time with Dr. Jim Wilder that I had lived most of my life in enemy mode, and enemy mode had been really the tool I used to succeed and be to get success in the military. And I tried to succeed relationally with enemy mode. Boy, that doesn't work too well. During the pandemic, it really came to a head for Jim. Of course, Chris, when you wrote The Joy Switch, which we're going to talk about a little bit, when you wrote that, you used the term enemy mode. And enemy mode was really on display during the pandemic, early hours of the pandemic. And we talk about it in the first chapter of the book. And Jim and I wanted to figure out, why is it that we go there so easily? And is it possible to escape? And so, and then the more we looked, the more we saw it everywhere. And I saw it starting with my own life and leadership.
Wow. Well, It is so relevant. It is so important. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the investment you've made in putting this book together. We need it. And we're so glad that you've put this work in for it. So Ray, in the book, you guys talk about 3 different types of enemy mode: simple, stupid, and intelligent enemy mode. And so we're going to be telling stories from each type. Can you start off with stupid enemy mode and just help us understand a little bit about what this is with a story?
Sure. And we're not going to define them today too much, but stupid enemy mode is a high energy moment where people are losing it. And we all recognize it. And when we interviewed people, that's the one they got right away. They didn't necessarily get the other 2 as well. A few years ago, we had a lot of family over, and we have grandchildren. And our granddaughter at that point, I think she was maybe 3, and she really wanted to watch her favorite TV program. And in the moment, I was trying to get that television on and find the right remote to use and get the program on. And I could not find the remote. And I was convinced that I had given the remote to Deborah last night and that she had lost it. And I was getting amped up. And I was over there searching around the room for the TV remote. And no one was helping me. And I felt all alone, and my vision was narrowing. I was feeling a lot of stress and tightness in my chest. And I was pretty angry at my wife until I remembered that actually the night before she had handed the remote right back to me. And I kept looking, and I found the remote right where I had left it. And I apologized profusely, but there was damage. The things I said to my wife, and which our adult children observed, it exposed stupid enemy mode, because sometimes I would lose it to try to force a win, to get someone to see my point of view or to do what I wanted them to do. It sure didn't work that day, and it did some damage.
Wow. I know I was going to have Chris jump in after that, but Ray, we have a couple of questions coming in just that aren't familiar with this enemy mode concept at all. And we're going to be illustrating if that's you, we're hoping these stories will actually demonstrate what it is just by listening to the stories. But do you want to give a sentence or 2 just to help bring along anybody who's coming in with a blank slate? Sure.
Enemy mode is simply a non-relational state where your brain is convinced that the people around you are not on your side. And your right and left hemisphere of your brain are not synchronized. And you might be very good at solving problems left hemisphere, but there's a disturbance in the right hemisphere, and there's a breakdown at various levels of the brain. And it could be very deep brain breakdown down at the thalamus, which we call level 1, or it could be something at level 3 where you can't have mutual mind with the people around you. And so, and then we found 3 manifestations of enemy mode. We found simple, stupid, and intelligent. And I just talked about stupid, where people are losing it. Simple is really it's endemic, and it's just we're not being relational with each other, and we're missing relational cues with each other, and we're convinced that other person over there is not on our side. So that's the definition, though.
That's fabulous. Very helpful. Thank you, Ray. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, that's really helpful, Ray. And just this morning I was meeting with a group talking about this, and it does resonate with people, especially stupid enemy mode. This reminds me of a time, one of many times. One time I was in stupid enemy mode, and we had a family member with some pretty big needs, serious needs. And the family member had, understandably so, expectations that those needs would be met. And for various reasons, this really kind of pushed a button in me. I felt this kind of this expectation, this responsibility, and yet I didn't feel like I had what I needed. And it's safe to say my brain just locked into stupid enemy mode. And I had these really strong feelings. I noticed at times I would justify why I'm upset, and it's just, this person's fault. And I just had these strong feelings. I had no peace. There was no joy. There was no compassion. I was just the accelerator was stuck in the car, so to speak. And I just had all of this energy. And Jen recognized it, like, wow, honey, you're really having a hard time here. I'm like, yes, So I recognized that, wow, I need to try to find the breaks. And so it really helped just to take a little bit of time to quiet, a little bit of time to notice what was happening here and even get some of God's peace. And within a short amount of time, I could actually just feel myself start to quiet. I felt like I was starting to get my peace back. And praise God, I actually realized why. This was an old button that I had to work through, and that button had gotten pressed. So it was just such a contrast to go from where just intolerable, strong feelings, my mouth is running, to just be able to find the peace out of that was such a gift.
And I'll add a real quick story here. Just I notice enemy mode the most within my family, whether it's my hubby or my kids, especially trying to get out the door in the morning with the kids. That prompts enemy mode quickly for me. And sometimes what I notice is that I'm getting loud and my body's getting tense, and my eyes are intense, and I'm saying something corrective to my kids, and I'm feeling like they're not on my side, and I have to overcome this to get out the door or whatever it is. But then I see their face and I see the little crumpling in their eyes, and it catches me. It catches me like, oh, that's not the impact I want to have. And that is what helps me escape enemy mode in those moments, is seeing the impact that I'm having on somebody else and remembering, oh yeah, I care about them. They're not just a problem to be solved.
That's really helpful, Jen. And I love how, in the book, Ray, you talk about, terms like these are the moments where you use the term we flip our lid. We lose our cool. We stop being our best selves. And, that might be kind of more of a in your face, loud, being unkind. And again, for some people, it might be retreating, kind of turtling up and shutting down, silent treatment. There's a whole spectrum of how this can look, but this is helpful just to get our brains going and how this can look. So with simple enemy mode, Ray, it may not be as obvious what's going on, maybe a little bit more subtle, but talk to us about this mode. And
Simple.
like.
Yeah, simple enemy mode is a very low energy, non-relational state. And actually, some of us live there our whole lives and don't even know it, but we don't have relational joy. Now, one of the things that Chris really helped with when you wrote the Joy Switch, Chris, is you defined what joy is and what relational joy looks like and how it feels in our bodies. And enemy mode is the opposite of that. Now, the good news is people don't like staying in enemy mode for long because it just feels bad. And you're not happy to be with people around you, and they're not happy to be with you. Now, we've all seen this. Now, we're not talking about when people are focused on a task at hand and they really need to concentrate. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about when we're so tired and our capacity is so low, we need to go take a nap, or we're sick, or we're under the influence of medication. What we are talking about is our brain is concluding that there's nobody on my side, and so I just need to do this on my own. And so simple enemy mode is like that. So Jim tells a story about his computer brain and how he would be at his desk working, and his wife, Kitty, would come in, quote unquote, interrupt his work, and it would cause him to go into an enemy mode reaction until he realized that what he was doing, he needed to get his relational brain awakened and think about what he appreciated about this lovely woman standing beside him. I talk about my podcast brain. Deborah and I were driving across Idaho, and I was listening to my favorite podcast, and so was she. And she asked me a simple question. I didn't hear it 2 times. And then when I finally heard it, I paused the podcast. And instead of saying, yes, how can I help? I said, I really want to listen to this. Now, that sounds very subtle, but I was communicating to her, I don't want to connect to you right now. I want to listen to this. That was simple enemy mode. But some of us, we just live this way for our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ray, that's a really good example. I have kind of a similar example that comes to mind where I was on a ministry trip, had been kind of on, all weekend, wonderful time interacting with people. And I'm kind of a low energy person. So after being on all weekend, my my wife and sons picked me up at the airport, and it was really good to see them. And as I got into the car, I noticed they all had a lot of energy. They were just, excited. And I noticed like my energy just kind of had dropped out. And I noticed I was actually feeling pretty overwhelmed by that level of energy. And I just didn't feel in that moment that they were like on my side. I totally felt like, wow, I'm missing it here. We're not on the same page. I just can't fully engage. I just felt like I was in the back seat instead of the driver's seat here of what I was experiencing. So just feeling that disconnect. Yeah, like we're just not on the same team here. I feel like there's a bit of a chasm here, and it doesn't feel good to be there in simple enemy mode.
I remember a time a few years ago, our youngest daughter was at home, and we were celebrating her birthday. And we were at the table with the beautiful dinner and the birthday cake, and we were just happy to be together, but I was lost in my thoughts. And rather than just focusing and being fully present, I was thinking about problems I had to solve the next day and meetings I needed to attend, and a stray comment that had been made in a recent meeting that bothered me. And I noticed along the way that my wife and our daughter noticed that I was not there. And because I was away in my left hemisphere solving problems, and I was not connecting with them deeply. And so that was simple enemy mode. I was trying to mentally multitask. Actually, that is impossible. You can really only focus on one thing at a time. And so that's a manifestation of simple enemy mode in my life. Seeing my daughter's tears helped me realize, oh, wait a minute. And I had to ask her to forgive me, and I had to come back to the table, come back to the party, and be all there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
I've seen a couple really helpful questions just pop through. I just want to address a couple of them really quickly. One of the questions was, is simple enemy mode kind of like having our attachment light off? And that was something I really struggled with for quite a while. And just trying to understand it. And what Ray said and what the book says about how it's kind of like attachment light off, but it's also accompanied by that feeling that others are not on my side, because we can just be not in the mood to attach, but we don't have any kind of an awareness that others aren't on my side. So it's would that be a good description, Ray?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. And really you can be in simple enemy mode and not know it, but you also, if you have diminished capacity, it's not that you're in enemy mode, you're just exhausted. Chris, when you got in the car with your family, you were just exhausted. And I've learned, so sometimes I'm just exhausted and overwhelmed. And when someone comes to me with a question, in the past, what I would do is just isolate myself, and I would consider them a problem. And I would even maybe bark an order at them like we do in the military. What I'm working to do in this season, now that I know about enemy mode, is I'm saying, I am so tired right now. I really want to help you. I really want to be present with you. Can you give me a few minutes? Or can we talk about this tomorrow? And then I can get away, take some deep breaths, take a break, and then re-engage with them, hopefully just a couple minutes later. It might have to wait till the morning if I'm under the weather.
Yeah,
that's
a
really
great
helpful,
example.
Ray. Yeah, and I related with this so much when I was reading the book and thinking about how, for me, a lot of the times it feels like what you said with podcast brain. It feels like I'm not seeing this person as someone I care about and love. I'm seeing them as a block to something else that feels more important, which really isn't more important than them. And it doesn't mean that I need to give them exactly what they need at that moment, but there's a relational way to engage with them where I see them.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, making eye contact with them has been a really big way of breaking out of it. And I've also given them permission. When you notice that mom is like, you can't pull her away, they have things they know they can do to help break me out of it so that they can get me to communicate with them relationally. So
Good. That's really good.
Well,
so let's dive into, Jen.
I just want to add one quick comment, because
Sure.
Ray, you said Chris's example, he was, he was tired, But I know, and he may not have said this, but I know that it was for him, he started out tired, but because of the high energy, it felt like we were a block to his quieting. And so that sent him into simple enemy mode because he was tired, but we had this energy that felt like an enemy to his tiredness.
Yeah, it's and I'm sure a lot of people relate with kind of what we're describing today. You know, as you start to hear these stories, we start to go, yeah, I can relate to that one. That one really resonates.
Yeah, definitely. So intelligent enemy mode. Ray, talk to us about this.
And one of the questions in the chat was, I want to highlight that a listener asked, so I've been helped by the joy switch. And what does the escaping enemy mode book that the joy switch didn't? Well, the joy switch book didn't do a whole lot with escaping intelligent enemy mode.
Right.
Because to escape intelligent enemy mode, you really need help from people around you, and you need group identity.
Yes.
Now, intelligent enemy mode is also a non-relational brain state, but it's a non-relational brain state that's kind of not high energy. It's not low energy. It's right in the middle range of brain activity. And intelligent enemy mode is all about the win. Now, I thought coming into this project that intelligent enemy mode was rare, and it only was the worst of the worst. Name a predator, they were operating in intelligent enemy mode. They were all relational terminators, as it were. And then I realized how often I had seen it and done it. So when you are convinced that the people around you are an obstacle to your agenda, whatever that agenda, and it might be a mission you're on that's really important, but you know enough emotional intelligence to push the right buttons to get your way. That is intelligent enemy mode. And intelligent enemy mode is very emotionally intelligent without attachment. So the people around you are not human beings to connect to and love well. They're really expendable. And so, I mean, I've seen this in the military. I've seen this in meetings. I've seen this in 3-star generals sidelined by 4-star generals. It's all about manipulating the relationships to get a win for the organization. It's valuing the mission and the organization over the individual and the relationship. It's making the problem bigger than the relationship, to use some language from our book, Rare Leadership. And it's scary and it's common.
Yes. And Ray, I really liked the stories. You guys have a lot of really good examples and stories. And I really appreciated the detail in the book. I just felt like you guys, you really added a lot of substance to help apply, understand this. And, you know, I have another example with intelligent enemy mode where it was actually in a work environment. And I had a coworker who, in a sense, she really wanted to be like the boss's right-hand gal. Like she almost played a chess match with her coworkers and just trying to kind of work her way to get to this like esteemed position. And the result was coworkers were feeling manipulated and they weren't very happy. And eventually she started to hear about some of this. And it actually really, it really upset her to hear some of that feedback from people, like how she was coming across. And thankfully, by God's grace, she just felt safe with me and would, you know, kind of reached out and kind of trusted some of my input. So I was able to help put words to some of what I was seeing. And she recognized I want to be here, but in the process of getting there, I'm actually, this isn't going well. And so it was a very difficult dynamic because it was very focused on getting to that end result, coming across as very caring, but there was a whole lot going on that people were feeling. And yeah, that intelligent enemy mode, it is more common, isn't it, than what we might realize.
It sure is.
And I'll add a quick story. I saw one question pop up. How do you deal with children in intelligent enemy mode? And actually, that was one of the stories that was popping through my brain is our sons sometimes go into intelligent enemy mode. And it's a language we have in our house about enemy mode. And I'll even notice they might be in stupid enemy mode. And then I ask them to calm down from that. And I can tell they're still not actually in relational mode. They've shifted into intelligent enemy mode. I can look like I am in relational mode enough that we can move on from this topic, or that we, you know, or that I can still figure out how to get what I want here. And it's not with the fit, so I'll do it a different way. And one of the things that has helped us is outside of those moments talking about who they are, what we know is important to them, and what's important in our values as in our family. Because in those moments I can point out, I actually know that you're a very caring person, right? Caring young man. And right now, are you caring about how you're impacting your brother or me? And because I know that's important to you, but right now it's not looking like it. And that kind of gets them thinking like, oh yeah, I am. And again, they're preteens. So, there's bumps along the road, but having that, like Ray said, that group identity, who are we that we can be called back to, I think is a big part for us with working with our kids in that.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. We're going to move on, but I want to mention one last thing that I think is important with this intelligent enemy mode. I experienced it, I think, quite a bit now, looking back in my early years in ministry with I was in campus ministry and church ministry with different leaders, and they look so friendly and kind, and yet there was this intelligent enemy mode going on, and I picked up on it, no language for it, but because they were successful, because they were kind and could carry themselves so well, like it was easy for me to second guess myself, to shut down myself and what I was even seeing. And that's what I find so helpful about this book, is it's giving us some language to be able to identify it and then to do something about it, rather than invalidating what we're seeing maybe in other people, or saying, oh, that's just me and there's nothing I can do about it. So I really appreciate this conversation you're opening up, Ray.
Well, it's been a joy. And, we have a lot more on our podcast. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I talked to Ryan Brenneman, and during the pandemic, he was at one of the major pharmaceutical manufacturing companies. And it was a total intelligent enemy mode, fear-based culture. But he started leading his team relationally and helping them identify enemy mode and escape it and run on the fuel of joy. And it transformed their team, even though around them, the other teams and the bosses above them were in intelligent enemy mode almost all of the time. And so it was transformational. And I would also tell your listeners, a couple years before I retired from the military, I had a boss who was toxic and who operated in both stupid and intelligent enemy mode. And he was convinced I was the enemy. And one day he lost it on me, and I hadn't been talked to that way since basic training in the military. And it'd been like 30, 40 years before. But I had just gone to Thrive training, and I was able to take a walk. I was able to take some deep breaths. I was able to ask Jesus, what do you want me to notice about this? And I was able to stay relational with him, even though I never trusted him again because of the way he had treated me in that moment. But we could work together for 18 more months, and I would have joy. And I made it my practice every morning when I walked into the office, I would look him in the eye and smile.
Wow.
And multiple times during the day. And the Lord helped me do that. And I was able to escape enemy mode, even though it was stressful to work in that environment.
Wow. That's a great example.
That's very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just say this. I know there are a lot of questions coming in. We love your questions. We're documenting them, but we're not going to have time to answer today. We wanted to keep this short and sweet. I'm going to share some next steps for you in a minute, but we are taking them down to keep in mind as we're getting ready for the event. So I want to let you know that we're looking at your questions. And just want to say, as we're talking, there's a spectrum. Some of you, you're like, this is the first time I'm hearing about enemy mode. Some of you have read the book like 3 times, but wherever you're at on this, you might be having light bulbs going off, connections that are being made. You might still be scratching your head. I'm not totally sure what this enemy mode thing is. Wherever you are on that spectrum, we would love to have you continue to learn with us. And our goal is to spread in our families, our workplaces, in our communities, a more relational way of living. And so we just love to invite you into that. So one way that you can do that is by joining us next month. On February 16th, we're having a 2.5-hour event. Dr. Jim Wilder will be joining Chris and Ray for this time, where we're going to dig deeper into the practical ways of discover how to escape enemy mode. So we're going to be getting really practical with you guys. We're looking forward to this time. You can, the link should be in your chat if you registered for this. Well, if you're watching with us live, you registered. We're going to send out an email that's going to have these links as well. So you can learn more there and register with us. Anything else you guys want to say about the event? Good.
It's going good.
Yeah, Jim Wilder's going to be with us. He's going to help us with the technical questions that we'll encounter and help us do some troubleshooting relationally. And of course, we're good. And we're going to talk about, really, it takes a group around you to escape. We're going to head in that direction, but not quite get there. We want to help you reliably identify, admit it to yourself, admit it to your people, and escape. And we chose escape because we keep falling into it so reliably. And all of us do it. And so we all need to escape and stay relational. So, and we talk about a process called refriending in the book. How can we refriend the people around us? Well, that means staying relational.
Very cool. Well, we're really looking forward to this. I'm going to mention this at the end, but let me say it now too. If you have questions that you want us to consider, we're not going to answer questions at the event, but we would love to hear what questions you have about enemy mode. And this would be helpful for Ray and Chris and Jim as they're putting together the content. So you can email us at info@thrivetoday.org. I'll put that link up at the end as well. So Ray, can you talk to us also, if you want to learn more about escaping enemy mode, I would love for Ray to share with you about the Escaping Enemy Mode website.
Yeah, escapingenemy-mode.com has been out there for a couple of months. It has a quick overview of enemy mode, what it is, what are the 3 types. We've got some blog articles that we will be adding to. You can also get a free 38-page study guide. Just give us your first and last name and your email address, and you'll get a link to download the study guide. We also have links to our podcast. We have the Escaping Enemy Mode podcast that I wanted to talk about. It's called Escaping Enemy Mode, and it's wherever podcasts are found, both Apple, Spotify, and wherever else. And we're interviewing some of the people that we talked to for the book, other people who we've discovered later about how they're identifying and escaping enemy mode around them. Got 8 episodes out already and more to come. Very
cool. And we're going to put the link to that in the email that's coming out for our webinar registrants as well. Really cool. We want to share with you, I mentioned at the beginning that Chris Coursey wrote the book, The Joy Switch. And this really, Ray was sharing, it doesn't go into the intelligent enemy mode as much, but this book is such a practical guide for helping you escape enemy mode, especially when we're talking about like stupid and simple enemy mode. And so what we have done is package this together with enemy mode with a discount. Now this is for a limited time, just a few days. But if you jump on to this link that we have here, it'll be in the email, it's in your chat as well. You can get these books bundled together for a discount. And if you want to learn more about Life Model Works or Thrive Today, we've got our websites up here. You're welcome to join us, learn more about us. And this is the email, info@thrivetoday.org. Again, if you have questions you want us to consider as we're putting together the event in February, please email us. I would ask you in the subject line, if you could put questions for enemy mode event, that will help make sure that your questions get filtered to the right place. So Ray and Jen and Chris, thank you so much. This has been a really wonderful conversation, hopefully really helpful to get people's brains turning on this concept. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, it's been a joy. It's been a delight.
Good to be here.
Yeah, good to be here. Appreciate you.
So we thank you for giving us a little bit of your time, and please check out the event website. We would love to have you join us in February, and just thank you for being a part. We hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.